today we're going to cover is the polar base. So this one looks very complicated, but really you have to start with what you know, and then start with where you see a lot of dimensions coming off of. So in this case, if I look at this part, the center of my polar base is here, and I have a lot of measurements based off of circles that I have on here. So I'm going to use this circle and this circle here. So both of these circles to get in first to create each one of these fingers that we have here. So we're going to come up here and go to circle and center diameter. It looks like it is a diameter of 34. So let's just select here and type in our 34. That's the larger circle. And our smaller one is 12. Bring my cursor over so I can see my center point here and type in 12. All right, so from here, I need to create this finger here, and then I'm just going to copy and rotate these so I don't have to draw each one of these two separately because they're exactly the same. So I know that they are 60 degrees. So this line right here is a 60-degree angle. So here's 0, coming up this way is 60. So we're going to select our line command to help us with this reference here. I'm just going to select the center of my circle, and notice it's snapping to that 60 degrees. That's because I have my polar tracking down here set to 30, 60, 90, 120. So every 30 degrees, it would snap. So here's 0, there's 30, here's 60. So we're just going to drag my cursor out this way for now. And this is going to be a good reference to get in these two other items. So the next thing I can do is put in this circle that's a diameter of 12, because from one side to the other here is 12. And it's going to be right at this intersection point. So we'll grab our circle command, select the intersection. I'm going to type in 12. Now this next thing that we have to look at is from this point, this outer part of the circle to this outer part of the circle is going to be 43 degree or 43 measurement. So if I select copy my circle here and hit enter and select that center point, I can't move this 43 because that would be from center to center. I want to subtract this from the center to this end on both sides so that I have the right measurement. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to go ahead and so it's from here. So my whole circle is a 12-inch diameter. So I'm actually going to subtract the radius on both ends, which would be 12. So I'm going to subtract 12 from 43 and type in 31. And again, you're going to be at that 60-degree angle to place that in here. Now, if you're like, I'm not really sure if that's right, come up to your measure command to do your distance and do from your endpoint to your endpoint to make sure, and it is. So right now I'm going to go ahead and do this outside diameter circle. So that's a diameter of 28, and then we're going to trim it down to just the radius. And again, it's going to have the same center point here. So let's type in our 28. And then as I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, so what else do I know? I have a line going from my circle to my circle. So I'm going to go ahead and select line command. And you might think it's quadrant to quadrant, but it isn't really, is it? If I select this quadrant, it's not going to be touching this outside part. So I'm going to go to my quick menu here and choose tangent. And I'm going to select this line, or excuse me, this arc. And then I have to come back in and do tangent again, because remember, this is a one-time click. Once you click it and use it, you have to click it again if you want it to be tangent. So we're going to select tangent again, select the circle. And so now that line is tangent on those two circles. So let's do the same thing, tangent. And again, if I don't do tangent, it's going to want to snap to that quadrant. So I have to do tangent, and it's going to be tangent to this circle. And that's fantastic. So to get the other lines in, because we don't know exactly where they touch here, right? Because it's tangent, we're just going to use the offset command, because we know when we're looking at this drawing here, the distance from here to here, so from here to here was 12, right? So this is 12. If I subtract 12 from 28, I have 16. So from this line to the next line is going to be 8. So I'm going to go to select my offset, type in my 8, and offset both of my lines there. At this point, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and do some trimming because we're going to be copying this and we don't have to do extra trimming. So let's get rid of all the extra lines that we don't want. I'm paying careful attention over here and make sure I don't get rid of something I do want. There we go. Hit enter. And now what I'm going to do, and I'm going to leave that line there just because I have it as a reference line on here. But you would, if we're not putting dimensions in, you wouldn't need it. So I'm going to say copy, and I'm going to select all these items here. I want to make sure I get all of my items and see how they're all selected with the blue grips here. And I'm going to hit, so select all, hit enter, specify my base point, and I'm just going to specify the center of my circle here. And see how it's attached here? All I'm going to do is select the center again and hit enter. So right now I have 2 of these right on top of each other. I'm going to go to the rotate command and it's going to say, what do you want to rotate? And I'm going to select individually each one of these lines. You can't put the box around it, otherwise it's going to select both sets of lines that we have here. And there we have everything. One more. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to select this middle point, and then I'm just going to rotate it. In this case, I don't have to put in a measurement because I know it's at that 0 degrees, and I have my polar tracking on. And they're all 60 degrees apart, so it's going to naturally snap there. And I'm going to click, and there's my first finger. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hit here. I'm going to copy all of this. Hit enter. I'm going to use my base point and just click it twice. And then right click and hit enter. Otherwise, you're going to have 20 or 30 on top of each other. So we're going to select rotate. Again, I'm going to select each one of my items individually. Now, this is one way to do this. You could draw these individually, drawing each one like I showed you to draw the first one. But I think it's kind of fun to try some new techniques. Hit enter. The center point is my base point. And again, I'm just going to drag my cursor till it snaps to that 60 degrees. And there we go. The next thing I'm looking at is I have a radius of 7 here. So I'm going to do my tangent radius. And do it one more time. And then I'm going to take a few moments to go ahead and trim up what I don't need here, just so it doesn't look as cluttered. And that's, again, my personal preference. You will find your own techniques as you move forward. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit escape. Now the next part here is different from the first part, but I still have the same concept. I have this first circle that's a 12-inch or 12 millimeter diameter that's 45 millimeters away from this circle here. So that's what I'm going to put in first. Grab my circle command, and it's a diameter. So I'm going to set it right on that quadrant and type in my 12. And it's the same thing as before because it's from quadrant to quadrant is 45. So from quadrant to the center of this circle would be 6. From here to the outside quadrant is 6. So I have to subtract 12 from this. So I'm going to copy, select my circle, hit enter because I don't want to copy anything else. Choose my center point, and I'm just going to drag my cursor out. So 12 minus 45 is 33. And hit enter. And if you're not exactly sure, you can always check your measurement. And I suggest you do that so you don't get everything drawn and realize, oops, I subtracted incorrectly. I'm just going to put both of these horizontal lines in here, those two. So I'm going to come over here from quadrant to quadrant and repeat my line from quadrant to quadrant. And at this point, again, you could trim if you want to keep it kind of clean as you go. And now the next thing I want to do is to get in this horizontal line and this horizontal line. So I'm just going to offset these 2 lines here. So this is 12, 12 minus 28 is 16. So the distance between here and here is 8. And between this line and this line is 8. So we'll do our offset command, type in our 8, which it's already there from previous, and just snap to both sides. There we go. To get in this arc here, I'm going to do a radius of 20. So I'm going to come over here and do my tangent, tangent, radius, tangent, and tangent. And I know the radius. Again, I know the circle touches here somewhere, but I know the radius and it'll choose the circle or the location of those tangents. And again, I could come up and trim. And you have to be careful with this one because I can see that there's a little excess here. So don't leave those little tails on here. Zoom out there. So now what I want to do is I have this line from this location here. So I can do a couple different things. I could actually just draw it. I could offset it. It just doesn't matter. So I'm going to try using my line command. And I know from here, so it's going to be from here down to here, right? And I use my polar tracking to be able to get it lined up with those endpoints, right? And then I'm just going to come over here and I'm just going to do a quick move. Enter, move that over 10. Now I don't have to go ahead and draw another line there. I can use a quick command called extend, and it will extend that line to the next line that it has. See, I can actually do it again. It's going to extend to that arc. See how that does that? But we obviously don't want that. Now, the final thing is this little radius here, and we could do tangent, tangent, radius again. I'm going to show you a little quicker way to do some of these, and it's called the fillet command. So we're going to select fillet. Now, the tricky thing with fillet is you have to right click and select radius because you have to set the radius. If you don't set the radius, it defaults as 0. Once it's selected, you select both your lines that you normally would have touched for tangent, tangent, and it'll automatically create that for you. Fillet. Once you have the radius in, you don't have to reset it. And there it is. I'm going to go ahead and erase these just to clean it up a little since we're not putting in our dimensions. And that is the polar base.